Hi everybody and welcome to my review to the bike that you see in front of you. The Yamaha YZR-M1 2016 is ridden by Valentino Rossi. The model's by Spark and it's a 1 to 12 scale, making it approximately 15 centimeters long or 5.9 inches. So throughout this small review I'll also be making comparisons to a similar Mini Champs bike, as I consider those to be the most similar competitor at this price point. Now, as it's the first review that I've done, I'll just give you a quick overview of how I'm actually going to score this up. So I'll review the model against 5 categories, each category holding up to 5 points, meaning the model can score a maximum of 25. Now, the five categories will be desirability, the box or packaging quality, build quality, the overall look of the model, and the model's value for money. So if we roll first then into desirability. Now, I want to cover the rider, the actual season 2016, and the motorcycle when it comes to this, as I think you need a holistic view when it actually comes to the desirability of the model. Riders have long careers, they have totally different seasons, bikes obviously throughout that time. Now the rider, Valentino Rossi, needs absolutely no introduction. If you're a motorbike fan, basically you know who Valentino Rossi is. He's won 9 titles, that's 7 in the top class, 1 250 title and 1 125. In a career that at this point is 24 years, and he's still obviously signed up to do the 2020 season as well. So he's going to do 25 seasons worth of racing. And at this point, we'll see where he goes after that. At the time of the review, Valentino's made 204 starts in all classes with 115 wins. That's the second most of all time behind Agostini's 122. He's made 234 podiums, and that's an incredible 58% strike rate against his race starts, which is just unbelievable. Also 65 poles and 96 fastest laps. He's also the only rider in history to win championships in 125, 250, 500 and MotoGP, being particularly prolific in his first 8 seasons at MotoGP level between 2002 and 2009, winning 6 championships. He's considered to be the GOAT of motorcycle racing, so the greatest of all time, with a huge fan following over his career. Although that's swayed over recent years, his charisma and exciting race style means he's still a fan favourite, and basically any race is a home race for Valentino Rossi. Now the 2016 season then, that this model portrays. The pilots for the season were Valentino Rossi and defending champion from the season before, Jorge Lorenzo. Now Valentino actually finished second overall in the championship this year to Marc Marquez with 249 points. He made 10 podiums, which included 2 race wins, but also 4 DNFs, which is still quite a lot for Valentino. Jorge finished third in the championship with 10 podiums as well, and including 4 wins. So it shows obviously that Rossi was more consistent over the season, even with less wins. So although a successful season on paper, Valentino has actually gone on record to state that he feels during this 2006 season that the team took the wrong development direction, and they're still feeling the pain of that today. A bit of a bitter pill to swallow, especially after such a successful 2015 championship year where he nearly won his 10th title. Obviously, if you know motorbike racing, you'll know the controversy that was near the end of that season. Now, let's have a look at the actual motorbike then. So it's the Yamaha YZR-M1. The M1 first raced in 2002 during the first 4-stroke MotoGP season with Max Biaggi and Carlos Checa, Max taking 2 wins that year. After a disappointing 2003 season with 0 wins, Valentino actually made the shock decision to move from the dominant Honda to the then stalling Yamaha for the 2004 season, which kick-started an amazing era of success for them. Miraculously, he actually won the first race on board the M1, beating at that point Honda rival Max Biaggi in a tense battle in South Africa. He then went on to win the 2004 championship with 9 wins and 304 points, which was 47 ahead of his closest rival, the Honda pilot Sete Gibernau. By the end of the decade, the M1 had won a further 3 championships with Valentino, amassing an incredible 51 race wins during the 2000s. And that was made up of 44 by Rossi, 5 by Spaniard Jorge Lorenzo, and 2 by Roman Max Biaggi. Since this point, the M1, although not in Valentino's hands, has still continued its run of success, although maybe not as prolific. Between 2010 and 2019, the M1 notched up 3 championship titles in the hands of Lorenzo and an overall massively impressive 58 race wins. And that was made up of 39 by Lorenzo, 12 by Rossi upon returning from Ducati in 2013, 6 for Maverick Vinales, and 1 for the American Ben Spies. Now, the dominance of the M1 has been halted dramatically with the arrival of Marc Marquez at Honda, resulting in the bike taking just 1 championship since 2013, with a comparatively low 13 race wins since the 2016 season. But overall, if we're looking at the actual desirability of this particular model, it's got Valentino Rossi as the pilot, possibly the greatest of all time, a bike with so much heritage, massive fan favourite. For me, out of 5, this is a clear 4. Now, it would be an easy 5 out of 5 if it was one of the championship winning bikes, maybe a bike from earlier in Rossi's career, like the 2009 Yamaha M1. But at this particular point, I would give this model a 4 out of 5 for desirability. Let's move on to the next category, which is the box or packaging quality. So I've opened it out here, displayed everything out in front, and as you can see, the actual main box opens with the side flap here. It's not too bad, I can't see it causing any cracks or creases down here. So if you do like to keep your boxes in as good a condition as you can, or maybe even display them with the model, I think you should be able to. It's got a nice picture of the actual bike on the front. It says Spark 1 to 12 in the corner. Tells you what the bike is. If I move the box around, it's just got a picture of the rear of the bike on there. A few of the usual bits and bobs on the back, although obviously that's upside down. If I turn that around, you can see it's a Yamaha licensed product. It's got the website for Spark there. Age 14 plus, just to show you it is a collectible model. It's not something that kids should be playing with as a toy. And the same again on that side of the box, just the rear of the bike. Now, when you do actually open the model up, it comes with this inside. Now, it is styrofoam, and inside is housed, the bike is housed in a clamshell. And just to make sure nothing falls out or rattle around during the packaging, they actually put these little holders in there, these little black sort of foam, just to keep it secure more than anything. So if we have a look at the nearest competitor, as I mentioned at the start, which I would class as Mini Champs at this price point. Now, Mini Champs typically come in one of these. Now, it's just a cardboard overlay with the clamshell in the middle. Quite no frills, it does its job exactly like you need it to. But my opinion, if we go from this here, which I would probably give a 3, possibly a 2, to the Spark packaging, which it does come with the extra security of the styrofoam inside, nicer pictures on the outside, more sturdy cardboard, a better box, I'd be looking at give this packaging a 4 out of 5. Now, 5 out of 5, just so everyone's aware of what I think, I reckon that's the old Mini Champs Classic collection, where they come in like those nice display boxes that you can lift up and keep the bike on there, and it had a bit of a bio about the bike and the rider actually on the box. So for me, there would be a 5 out of 5. But the Spark packaging here, definitely better than the average that these models usually come in. So I'm scoring it a 4 out of 5. Moving into the next category then, which is the build quality. Now, this is the first time that you've seen the bike outside the box, and I'm sure you'll agree, it is an absolute beast. Looks fantastic. I was really surprised when I got it out of the packaging, and clamped my eyes on it for the first time. It was really eye-catching. The colours were fantastic, and when you actually pick it up, you realise that you're picking up something that has been, engineered really, really well. It feels great and it looks great, especially in the flesh. Because this is the first video I've ever done, I haven't got any good lighting or anything like that, and it's a bit washed out on the camera, but you can really see some small fantastic details, and you've actually got this piece in hand, and it's going to look fantastic alongside the rest of my collection. And when it comes to the build quality, it's made out of a mix of resin and die-cast parts. Features that it includes is just the paddock stand, obviously working steering, rear suspension. Doesn't have working front suspension from what I've just tried. And like I say, it's just an overall fantastic looking piece. Now, as part of the build quality section, I'm going to also weigh the bike, and I've got a Jorge Lorenzo 2010s championship winning Mini Champ as well, that I'm just going to do a comparison of weight against. So I'll do that in a tick just to see how heavy it is, which will show basically how many die-cast parts it's made out of. Now, when it comes to build quality as well, there is a couple of things that I picked up on that are a little bit lazy, I would say, or a bit of an oversight in terms of quality control. So if I just point those out for you now, if I just turn the bike around, you can see here, At the rear, I don't know whether it's like a little camera mount or something like that for the TV, but it's not in the sort of middle section there. And I think that's something that probably is in the middle. I've not actually checked, but I reckon that's just a little bit of an oversight, a little bit of laziness in terms of whoever's stuck that on there. Maybe should have gone to Specsavers. And also just at the front of the bike, the wheel is straight, but the handlebars are still turning slightly to the left. So the alignment is slightly out there, which is something that I think they definitely could have sorted out. You know, it's one of those things that someone somewhere has just put something a little bit wonky. But overall, it's a fantastic looking piece. And let's see how heavy it is. So not like I do any baking in the house, but I've got some scales here which weigh in grams. So I'm just going to turn these on. And let's see how much it weighs. So let's pick it up, plonk her on here. We are looking at 236 grams. Now, if I compare that to Jorge Lorenzo's 2010 championship winning M1, which is the only other M1 I've actually got, so although it's not a massively fair comparison, it'll show you a bit of a difference because this one does have the detachable fairings, and it does actually feel a little bit heavier when you do first pick it up. This one is 270 grams. So the Spark model does weigh less, but that could just be a result of the detachable fairings. If we put them both together, if I just remove those scales, they're both fantastic looking bikes. You know, they both look absolutely brilliant. Now, I do think when you've got them side by side, especially in the flesh, but the Spark model is better. And we'll move on to more of why when it comes to the overall look and just the actual little details on the bike. But in terms of build quality, they're both resin, both made out of die-cast parts too. The Mini Champs one is heavier. There are a couple of faults on both, namely obviously the alignment on the Spark one and the little black piece at the back, which is just out of alignment. But other than that, I'm going to give this model a 4 out of 5 for build quality, as it still feels fantastic. And like I say, especially in the flesh, it looks absolutely brilliant. So 4 out of 5 for build quality. Moving into what I feel is the most important category now then, the overall look of the bike. It's okay, it coming in nice packaging, it costing you a pretty penny, but if the bike doesn't look any good, you don't want it in your collection, full stop. I've already mentioned that I think this looks superb, so you have no surprise, but it's going to score really well in this category. But I want to just give a bit of an overall look of all the different features that I feel the bike's got and what makes it just an overall better looking model. It's the little things that add up on these bikes to actually make them look great. So I hope I can show you some of the things that I really appreciate on here. Just before we start though, a few things I'd like to point out first is the scaling of the bike. I do feel that it's scaled really well, especially things like the wiring and all the cables, etc. I think on some models the tubing can be a little bit thick, which if scaled into a 1-to-1 would be out of proportion, whereas on here, and you'll see that when I do get round to showing it, it's much more in scale. Secondly, the decals are all nicely laid. They're not going to fall apart in your fingers like they do on some models, although I haven't had that for a long time. But overall, it just adds again just to that overall look of this piece. Now, one of the main things that I do feel the bike and Spark have done a superb job with is individual painting. So it's not just block colours like the front disc here and the caliper, the front forks. It isn't all the same colour, etc., which can make things look very toyish. They've sectioned out all the different colours. The paint applications are great. No smudging on there. You can really tell that a lot of effort is being put in on this, and it looks superb. Also, I don't know if my camera's picking it up, I think it just about is there, is the carbon effect. So where the bike's carbon in real life, it has got the carbon effect on this model, and that's all around the bike, and it really does set it apart from some of the other models that I've seen. So that looks really good. And I pointed out at the start just about the wiring. So you can see here the wiring's really in scale, coming from the caliper, etc., up to its connecting points. It's even got a bit of tubing around here to bundle the wiring together, like these do have in real life. I just think it looks really great. You can see the front radiator as well, lovely details on there with the little holes, and it just looks superb. Now if we look even at the winglets, they've got the carbon effect also, just looks really nice. The paint as well, can't really pick it up on here, maybe just a little bit on the tank there, has actually got the sparkles on it. So the metallic blue that's on this Yamaha has got nice sparkles actually in the paintwork. Something that looks superb in hand. Now as we move around the machine, other little bits to point out is if you come in off the gear lever, which has got metal parts on it there, which I've not actually seen before. More wiring just around the machine, which all looks great. Something else, the little touches with the little silvers to represent obviously the nuts and bolts in there, which again just looks lovely. Really good looking chain on here as well. As I mentioned at the start of this category, it's not just all one colour as sometimes it can be, especially on the cheaper versions of models, but this looks superb. One thing to point out as well, which I don't think either I've seen before, is actually got a metal rear shock absorber. So it's die cast on there, just the spring around the outside, but that looks really nice. Little touches, again, it's the little things on these models that really does set them apart. We've got more mesh on here. This focuses. I don't think it will with the technology that I have, but just around here, that's all mesh also. There you can just see it. Back tyre, nice and fat. Still a seam on there, but it's only a very, very slight seam in the middle. If you know what you're doing, you can sand those down. Not something that I'd ever touch, but lovely looking, again, from all angles. Whichever angle you display this from, you're going to have a lovely looking piece. Great details at the rear of the bike, with the little nooks and crannies in there. Looks absolutely lovely. Exhaust pipe, it's got the mesh on the rear. More of the detailing work in here, especially the clutch plate, which looks great. Really nice. And overall, like I say, the paintwork and the decals are superb on this. None of them are lifted, and just everything just looks brilliant. More of the tubing work, piping work here. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Lovely. If we move on to the top, see more of that paintwork sparkling there that I was mentioning. It's got the protectors on the end of the handlebars. Just a lovely looking machine. If we just have a bit of a panoramic view on this and just go back a little bit, just look how nice that is. Absolutely lovely machine. Superb. Really pleased with this. It's actually the first Spark model that I've got. And I will be getting more. It's lovely, especially the new MotoGP machines. You know, they are fantastic. I also need to get some newer Mini Champs models so I can compare those against this, as I think obviously comparing it against the machine from 10 years ago is probably a little bit unfair. Overall though, overall look, easy 5 out of 5 for me. It's one of the best ones that I've seen in hand. Superb, and you know you have got a really good quality model when you get it in hand. Okay, 5 out of 5. Last category then, value for money. How much is this going to damage your wallet? That is the thing. Models, any collectibles, you know, I like collecting a few different things, not just bikes, and everything's getting more expensive recently. So everything's relative, but what would I score this value for money? Now, I got this particular model from eBay. I paid £95, including the shipping. So I think the most fair way to do this is to sort of look at that £95 in comparison to, say, what Mini Champs have got out there. They do have a 2016 Valentino Rossi version. I believe you can pick theirs up new on eBay. There's several different model versions out there, but they range between about £60 to £100. So I'd say this Spark one is on the upper end of the scale. Now, I don't think anything really should be £100 when it comes to a 1 to 12 scale model. I remember picking these Mini Champs up, 10, 15 years ago. And they're not that expensive, you know, they definitely weren't £100. Technology has moved on a little bit. Like I say, the model's great. A few beautiful touches on there that I've not seen before and the other models that I've got. But we're still talking about £100 here, which is a lot of money. You know, if you want to buy a few of these, you've got to have quite deep pockets. Model is great. They are collectible. You only really need one Valentino Rossi version, obviously, from this year. There is lots of different versions out there. The race winner from so-and-so, dirty version of so-and-so. But you do only need the one, let's be honest, unless if you're an avid Valentino Rossi collector or bike collector in general. My value for money, though, at £95 would be a 3 out of 5. I think if it was a model of this quality, around the £70 to £80 mark, then I'd be looking at more a 4 out of 5. If it was, say, 50 to 70, which would be quite cheap, but for me though, that'd be 5 out of 5. There are some model companies out there that are putting really, really good 1 to 12 scales out there, and they're under £50. And you know that they're sort of more round class 5 out of 5 if they were good quality to go alongside that price. But for me, the Spark 1 to 12 Yamaha Valentino Rossi 2016 scores a value for money of a 3 out of 5. Now, overall then, out of the 5 categories, that gives this machine a score of 20 out of 25, which is the first review that I've done, so I've got nothing to compare it against, but in my eyes, that's a superb score. The most important thing of all is I think the bike looks great. I love just turning it round and looking at the machine from loads of different angles. Lots of different touches on here, and I can't wait to display this alongside all my other machines. Now, this is the first review that I've done, so if you do have any feedback, anything that you think I could do differently if I do any more reviews, or anything that you'd like to see me review, please just let me know in the comments. Be much appreciated, and I hope you've enjoyed and not sort of too bothered about my droney voice for the last 20 minutes. But anyway, that's the review done. 20 out of 25, superb model. Let's roll on to the next one. Cheers everyone, bye.